Hello my lovely Flosstube friends and welcome back to my channel. Warm welcomes to you all. For those that are new to this channel, this is all going to seem a little strange, but all will be revealed and become very apparent. For those of you that have been with me for some time and have followed along with me throughout this little stitching journey of mine, you will know that I work from an Excel spreadsheet on a year-to-year basis. So please don't get confused. This does not replace my digital planner. So my digital planner is what I work from day to day and week to week, and it tracks my projects, it tracks my threads, it tracks how many days I've stitched on what. It's got a little calendar in there so I remind myself of what I said I was going to do for the week. This is an Excel spreadsheet that I work from month to month, 6 months in, for a forecast of what I've done, what I really should be doing, and then at the end of the year it gives me a very visual quick overview of how much I've stitched on each project throughout the course of the year, or what hasn't been stitched on, more to the case, and also how many finishes I get. So it's a much higher overview of what I've managed to achieve throughout the course of the year, whereas obviously the planner will only show me month to month how many days I've stitched on projects, but it doesn't really show me really quickly at a glance what I've done over the course of months, which is what I quite like. Now, this Excel spreadsheet is not a Blitz Stitch Excel spreadsheet. So anyone that follows Blitz Stitch, who is adorable and he does amazing stitching, if you haven't already found his channel, I will put a link here so that, or is it here? Yeah, I'll put a link here so that you can find him on YouTube and check out all of the good stuff that he does. Now, he does an Excel spreadsheet which does hourly tracking. It does prediction of how much longer he's got left on a project. It says how many stitches he's got left. I don't need anything that complicated or that in-depth. I just need a visual feel for the year. So I shared this Excel spreadsheet on my blog. I will put a link up here and in the description box below for those that haven't already got the Excel spreadsheet that might like my Excel spreadsheet. I will put a link up here and in the description box below for you to head on over if you would like to download it. It's a very bog standard Excel spreadsheet, and I will show you how it works. But for those that have already downloaded it and are actually using it and have used it for this year, I've had a number of questions from people saying, well, what do we do now? What do we do with our Excel spreadsheet? Now we're coming to the end of the year. How do we update it? So some people might consider that they would like to have it so that it will show year on year. I don't need anything that complicated. I like to keep each one separate. So for 2019, that is a separate one. 2020, that is a separate one. And 2021, I'm doing exactly the same, and I will create a separate one. Because at the end of every year, I don't want this Excel spreadsheet to just grow enormous and have all of my finishes showing for, 6 years. I don't need that, because if I needed to see what I finished back in 2019, I will just go to the 2019 one. So each year I will refresh and do a whole new one. And because I've had so many requests asking me, Teresa, how do we update our spreadsheets so that we can run with them again in 2021? I am going to show you how we do that. So let me head on over and show you the spreadsheet. For those that don't have this spreadsheet and are interested, this will give you a real high level overview of what it is and how I use it. So without further ado, let's head on over. So as you can see, this is my 2020 year review, and you will see along the bottom of the spreadsheet, I hope you can see my little mouse moving down there, you've got the months of the year. There's one that says whips, there's one that says year view, and then there's another one called whip go. Right, so whip go, ignore that is just where I put my whip go. So let me just click on my whip go and I'll show you what I mean. So I put my whip go in, and then I've put in there all the numbers that were called for the month. But because this is mine, I chuck that on the end because that's a monthly thing that I deal with. So you don't need to worry about that. That won't be on on the one that's on the website for you to download. So we're only really interested in January to December, the WIPs and the WIP view. So on here you can see my WIP view. This is all of my projects. This is the total amount of stitching that they've had throughout the course of the year. It does show me a breakdown over months, but it gives me a real high level overview of how much I've stitched on what. So it tells me what I'm loving stitching on, what I'm not loving stitching on. So if we look at my spreadsheet, you can see straight off Alternative Reality, Autumn Promise, Evening in the Park, and my autumn were the ones that I loved this year, and I've done lots of stitching on. Whereas if we look at Arabesque Rose, for instance, or Shades of Winter, you will see a big fat 0, which tells me I do not like working on those because I haven't touched them all year. So you can see very, very quickly what's being loved, what's not being loved. The one that is marked in blue, that is automatically coming up because that is a finish. So I set the spreadsheet so that when I get a finish and I put a finish date in, it will block out the colour so that straight away I can see how many finishes I've had for the year. Now, what I tend to do with this spreadsheet is I don't work on this month, daily. I don't update this daily at all. I update this at the end of every month, sort of within the first couple of days of the following month. So what I will do is I will track on my iPad, on the digital planner, I'll put my little ticks in. For those that haven't seen that, head on over to me where I show you my digital planner. And each month, within the month, I will mark on there all of the projects as and when I stitched on them. And I will put a tick at the end of every day that I've stitched on a certain project. Then at the end of that month and within the first couple of days of the following month is when I will come to this spreadsheet. And I'll literally be sitting here working with a cup of coffee, checking emails. I'll pull my little handy dandy iPad out. I'll check my digital planner for the month and I will literally just enter the information from this into my spreadsheet. So how do I do that, I hear you say? So let's just go to an example. What have we got? Let's go to September because there's some stuff in September. Let me make this a little bit smaller. There we go. So it's very straightforward. You can see you've got your months. Up here is the key. So S for stitched, F for finish, FFO, new start, and an unknown for anyone that wants one. Now over here on the right hand side, it's doing is tallying up everything that I put in this section. So I will click here on the project name. It gives me a drop down which will give me a list of all my projects. I pick the project that I've worked on that month and then I will literally just go across and I'll put in S's. So for instance, if I was to add at the end here, say the 28th of September that I'd stitched on it, I'll just click S and S and you can see it automatically updates my total, the trend bar, and it updates there. So let me just quickly take that out because I didn't actually stitch that at all. And then at the end of the month, it gives me a total number of days that I've actually stitched and it shows me how many days I stitched on each of those projects. Now, that's basically where I input my monthly information. And I just do that every month within the first couple of days of the following month. And then I just leave it to roll. Now, what I do tend to do is around halfway through the year, I'll go into my year view so that I can see what's trending, what am I really liking, what am I not really liking. And then also it just sort of reminds me if I've made something what I consider to be a focus piece, I want to try and get a completion done. It gives me a very, very quick look on here. So I just look at the blue. Wherever there's like big blue lines, I know that's already had lots of love. Anything that's got not so much blue, that's where it sort of says to me, well, actually, Teresa, you've either forgotten that project, so go and get it out, or you know what, you might want to consider UFO in that because you're not going to stitch on it. You obviously don't like it. So yeah, and what I tend to do is I'll look at this sort of halfway through the year, and then obviously at the end of the year when I want to see what I've achieved this year, how I want to plan for next year, what bits am I going to make a focus piece? It just gives me a much easier level of seeing what still needs stitching, what I'm really liking, what I'm not liking, how many finishes I've had. But it's very, very high level. Nothing too in depth. I don't need to know how many hours of stitching a project's had. That's far too much information even for me. So the spreadsheet is already created, and that is done in the whip section. So mine will look a little bit different for those that have got this spreadsheet, because in the spreadsheet that I provided you with, the only columns that you had was the whips column, the start date, the finish date, and I think I used the FFO'd date. I might not have. I might have added that myself. So as you can see in my spreadsheet, I've added a bit more detail, only because when I'm doing my Flosstube videos and I need at a glance information about things that I've done on a project when I'm trying to tell you, this just makes it a little easier. So obviously you can see I've started to put my fabric details in, the colorway, where I got the fabric, what information if I've made any changes for the threads, and then any further information that I've got that I want to share. So that is more really for me. But what comes in the spreadsheet is the whips column, the start dates, and the finish dates. That's what comes in the standard template. So I've got all of my projects in. So all I've done is literally put all of my projects in here and the start dates. And then as you can see, there's a whole lot of spaces left for me to put new projects in as and when I get new starts. So all the information in each of the months regarding the whips, or the whip name, will come from that spreadsheet. So when you fill out the spreadsheet, you'll literally put your whip names in and whatever dates you started on them. Then you'll go into each of the months, and where you want to update or put something in is where it will pick it up from. So let me see if I can do it. I'll do it for December, because I haven't done December yet, because we're not at the end of December. So December for me will be updated, I don't know, the 1st of Jan, 2nd of Jan, depends on when I get to it. But I've already got placeholders in there, but that doesn't mean that's what I've stitched on. So all I'll do is I'll go up to the top one, and then I'll click on one, say Castles in the Air, and then I will fill it in for what I've stitched on in December. So if I just sort of said that I stitched on that, then you can see how this works. It updates the number of days. This is the total number of days, number of stitches, or number of days stitched, and what my project is. And then I'll go over and I'll change this one, for instance. And I'll just keep going down and select all the projects that I've worked on for the month and input the information in. So there we go. That's how the spreadsheet works. And that is how I use it. So for those of you that were looking to find out what the spreadsheet does, that's what it does in a nutshell. Nothing fancy, nothing overly technical. You're not going to get drill down information. If you're looking for that, I do suggest you go over to Blitz Stitch and you look at his spreadsheet, because his spreadsheet goes into, a ton of detail. So if you're a real serious detail person and you love a real complicated Excel spreadsheet that's going to give you so much information, then Blitz Stitch's Excel spreadsheet is the one for you. If you're looking for something like me, where it's just a quick visual overview, you just want to see how much you've stitched on each project, what's got loved, what's not got loved, and what you've managed to finish, this spreadsheet will do that for you. So, that said, now for the people that have requested this video in the first place, what do we do about 2021? Right, so, like I said, I personally like to keep my spreadsheets separate. So I like to be able to know that I can always go back to my 2020 tab on my 2020 spreadsheet and see what I achieved. What I don't want is I don't want all the information regarding 2020 in my 2021. You know, I only want to see in 2021 anything blue. So this one here where it's blue, autumn, I finished it on the 19th of November 2020. In 2021, I don't need to know that. I don't need to know what I finished in 2020. I'm only interested in seeing what is currently happening for me for that year. So, How do we get around that? Very simply. Very simply. So you're going to go to your 2020 year review where you've already filled all this in. You're going to go up to the top. You're going to do file and you're going to do save as. Okay. And at this point, you're going to, if I just put in there browse. So you're going to see something like this. At this point, you're going to rename this. And instead of it being 2020 project, whatever, you are going to put in 2021 or call it whatever you like, but make sure that you date it so that you know it's 2021 or 2020 or whatever. It will give you a copy of your 2020 version. So you're just copying it. You're just doing a save as. That will create two. So you have one that says 2020, one that says 2021. So how do we now change this information so that it's everything to do with 2021? So first things first, we want to change the date. So go into your January tab. So down here in January, go over to where it says enter year. Now, watch when we do this, because what will happen is when I click on this 2020 and change that to 2021, all of the dates in here are going to automatically update and change. It does that for you. So if I go 20 and then I do 2021, now bearing in mind that at the moment it's showing Wednesday is the 1st of January. As soon as I click return, it now shows me that Friday is the 1st of January. So that's it. All the dates are now updated. Now, if I go into February, it's automatically done it. March, it's automatically done it. So all you need to do is do it in January. You go into January, change that date to 2021. Everything else in all of these sheets up to December will automatically change to 2021 and automatically change the correct day to the date. So nothing really hard for you to do there. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take out all of the markings of what we stitched, when we stitched in 2020. Super easy. So I'm going to go to the one, click and hold and drag. And I'm going to keep my finger on my left clicker of my mouse. And I'm going to highlight everything where it's been marked. So literally you're just clicking, holding and dragging your mouse and it's highlighting the areas that I want to delete. And then I'm just going to click delete. Job done. Hasn't deleted the formulas. All it's deleted is the information that you've put in. So if we quickly go through here, if I go to, I'll do this up to May and you'll see what I mean. So we're going across here. I'm literally just highlighting where I've put in and then I'm just clicking delete. Okay, we'll go to May like so. Now, if I now click January, February, March, April, May, all the information's gone. The only thing that's left is the project names. I haven't got a problem with leaving project names in there because it saves me having to add new lines in the spreadsheet. If you don't like that, then I suppose you could delete those out. It's personal preference. They haven't gone anywhere. As soon as you click on your little arrow down, scroll your bar back up, all your projects will be showing so you can select project again. I don't have a problem leaving my project names in there, but for those that like a very clean looking spreadsheet, this is where you might want to do that. So, like I say, January, February, March, April, May, I've updated. I've basically took everything out of here and I've took everything out that the dates that we stitched on in 2020. Now, to prove that this is actually doing what we say it does, if we go down here to where it says year view and I click on my year view, you can see straight away all of my projects are here. January's got nothing in it. There's no date showing. Neither is February, March, April, May. Okay. So if you want to check to make sure that yours is doing what I'm saying it will do, or it should do, this is how you do it. So you can see at a very quick glance, it's doing what I'm saying it will do. So now if we just go ahead and do the rest. So we know we done May. We go to June. We take all that information out. You literally just want to take out the information of what you've stitched on. So take that out. September, October, November, and December. I know I haven't got anything in. So if we now go to our year view, so down here on your tabs at the bottom again, click on year view, you can see the spreadsheet has now gone back to 0. Now, projects wise, at the moment I've still got autumn showing down here in the blue, which I don't want, because I'm not interested in 2021 what I finished in 2020. So now you might be. If you want to keep your finishes from 2020 in, then all you do is skip this step. So if we go into the WIP section, so this is where all of our information comes from. You can see the autumn, my autumn there, CC autumn, the date I started it, the date I finished it. I've put an FFO date in, but that's only for my own personal, that's not being tracked. That's not being tracked in this spreadsheet at all. That's just for me to know, because I am a bit lapsed when it comes to fully finishing things. You know, it can be months before I fully finish something that I finished. By going in here reminds me that actually you've still got to do something with that project. Don't just leave it and let it fester in a drawer somewhere. So the only information that is actually being drawn from this spreadsheet that you're, like the view you're looking at now, into the Excel spreadsheet is these 3 columns. That's it. The name of it, the start date and the finish date. So I don't want that information in my spreadsheet now, because that's to do with 2020. But like I say, if you want to keep all your finishes in so that you can see all your finishes rolling year on year, you just skip this step. You just don't delete the line. So for me, I'm going to start deleting out now what I know I'm not rolling over. So all of the projects here, because they haven't got finish dates in, are the projects that will roll over from 2020 into 2021, theoretically. But there are also some projects in here that I've decided that I'm going to UFO for next year. So this is a little sneak peek of what's going to happen on my my WIP parade and year in review, people. So there's a bit of a spoiler going on. So obviously, Alternative Reality, Andromeda, Autumn Promise, Castles in the Air, Evening in the Park. I'm not UFOing any of those. So they're all going to stay. So what I now want to do is I basically want to take out anything that I'm UFOing, that I've decided I'm done with it, I'm not working on it, I'm not doing anything with it, or anything that I've finished, because I just don't need to track that in the next year. I have various other things that will remind me of that. So first things first, autumn, I know I finished because it's got a finish date in there. So all I'm going to do is go over to where the line, left click, which will highlight your line, right click on the highlight, and I'm just going to do delete. And it's just going to delete the line. Job done. So it's gone. So if I now go into my year review, you can see that it's got this weird little thing over here saying NA. But if I now change that name to Frosty Forest, it writes itself. So what I do is update this WIP section first. So anything that I know is finished, I will delete. Anything that I'm going to UFO, or I just don't want it in there because I'm not going to stitch on it. So for me, I'm going to do a little spoiler here. So Arabasca Rose, I'm going over to where the 6 is up in that top corner, and I'm just going to click on that and it will select that whole row for me. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to delete it because I've UFO'd that. Shades of Winter, again, I didn't stitch it at all this year. I'm not going to like it. Now, I haven't chucked them away. They're just up, out the way. So I'm not going to stitch on those in 2021. So again, I'm going to click on my row. I'm going to right click on the selected area, and I'm going to delete that. Okay. So you'll go into this section. You take out everything that you don't want by literally deleting the line. That's how I do it. That for me is my way of doing it. So now if I go into my year in review, you'll see that over here on the right hand side, each of my projects now that I've deleted have got like this NA thing. So what I now do, so that I make sure that I've got everything in my year view ready for next year, is I will go into these top sections and I will work my way through my list. So alternative reality is number 1. And then go up to the top, and Andromeda is number 2. Now, I know that Arabesque Rose isn't going to be there because I just deleted that. So 1, 2, there's the third one, Autumn Promise. So Autumn Promise goes there. This is where you start overlapping on your projects. So Autumn Promise. Next one is Castles in the Air. And then I'll change this one. Castles in the Air is Evening in the Park. Evening in the Park is Frosty Forest. Following Frosty Forest is Mini Red Queen Red Dragon. And the next one is Peacock's Lagoon. Some of them will roll into their right places. Peacock's Lagoon, Quaker Rose. Now I know Shades of Winter I've just deleted. So Peacock's Lagoon, what was the last one we done? The Quaker. So after Quaker it's Story Keep Life is an Open Book. And then after Life is an Open Book, it's Winter White Santa. After Winter White Santa is Kings and Queens. And after Kings and Queens is Elizabeth Weston. Now, I know that that is me done. There aren't any more. So what I will do is I will just go in here and take those out. Now, that will leave these little things over here, which for some people, they don't like that. So what you could do, completely up to you how you do this and whether you want to, you could literally just go in and where I've got WIP 13, you'll see that it makes it go away. WIP 14. I like to keep these in because each time I decide I want a new start, I don't necessarily want to have to go and create a new column or a new line for it. You might not like that. That might annoy you because certain people have certain ways they like to do things. They might not want to see anything in there. But for me, that doesn't bother me in the slightest. But if you're that person that only wants your projects for the year in there and you know you're not going to add to it, or even if you was, you're happy to just add a line or copy a line, what you can do is you can do as we did before. Come over to the number, click and hold. I drag up because I'm going to do all 3 at the same time. Right click, delete. And it will just delete all of that so that the spreadsheet looks cleaner. Now, that's all very well and good, she says, but what if I need to add a project to it? So to add a project, there are 2 steps that you need to make sure that you do, because if you don't do these, then your spreadsheet won't update everything that you want it to. So say, for instance, you've got all of your carryovers from the year before. They're all in. But there might be a new start that you want, or there might be, I don't know, a UFO that you've decided to bring back out of UFO. There's nothing to say we can't do that. So the one thing that we need to make sure that we do is always update. You know, you might go into your WIPs column and create a new project. So Elizabeth Weston was our last actual WIP that is in our carryovers from the year before, but you might have a new start, or you might bring something out of UFO or something that you didn't stitch on last year that you've decided you're going to incorporate this year. So as an example, so you've got obviously these are just placeholders. So rather than do it straight away, I'm going to put it down here. So I put in demo WIP and I put in today's date, 20th of December. Okay. So at that point, I can now go say into December, demo WIP, and I can put in there, I don't know, it's 5 in there. So if we add some more, so we just say that in December of 2021, we stitched on that 13 times. Okay, so you've got alternative reality in December that I've stitched on 7 times, and you've got your demo WIP, which could be any WIP of your choice that is new start, and it's had 13 days in December. Now, this is where it's important to make sure that whatever the WIPs are that you add to your WIPs list or your WIPs tab, the year view has to be updated. So here's the year view, as you can see, alternative reality is showing. Obviously, these are all our other projects, but our demo one isn't. So this is my point. So if you've added a new WIP or a new project and you've put information in between the tabs of January and December, yes, it will calculate it within January to December. But if you don't have a line on your main year view for that project, it just won't show up. So you won't get accurate information. So what we need to do is we need to add another line for that. Now, yes, if I go into, say, Elizabeth Weston, for instance, as our last one, and I change that to this demo WIP, the information will automatically drop in, look. But then we lose Elizabeth Weston. We want it to show us all of our projects for the whole year so that we see everything. So change that back to Elizabeth Weston. Now, what we want to do is we want to add another line so that we can have our demo showing on there. And we need to do this for all projects. So what I do is I'll just pick another one. So I'll literally go up to another line. I'll do on a PC, that'll be Control C, which will give us our marching ants. And then I'll come down to 17. I'll just click on the project name and I'll do a Control V, which will basically just input the information. It will just basically copy everything. It copies not only the name and the information, it copies all the formulas at the same time. And then all I need to do is go into the WIP list, click on the drop down and then scroll down to my demo WIP, and all of a sudden it will pick up all the information. So that's the importance of making sure that everything or every project that is on your WIPs list, so every project that is on this list here, that you have a row for it in this list here. Because without a row in this list here, it doesn't matter whether it's in the WIPs and whether it's in the months, it won't show up as an overview for your year. But it's as straightforward as that. So obviously for, like I say, for a Windows, that would be Control C to copy the line. So you would click on the line you want, do Control C, and then literally just click down into this project section down here and just click Control V. That's a Windows. If you're working on a Mac or an Apple product, that will be Command C and Command V. So Command C would be the copy, Command V will be the paste. So that is our spreadsheet ready to rock and roll for 2021 and all those good projects that we're actually going to spend a bit of time stitching on. Me included. I've given the game away a little bit so that you've got a bit of a spoiler, so you've got an idea what might be coming in my year in review video at the end of the year. There's some changes for next year, I think, for how I'm going to do my stitching, but all that will become very apparent. Hopefully, I'll get that up towards the end of the year or the very beginning of next year, sort of first or second, like I have every other year. That leaves me with nothing more to say other than for those that celebrate Christmas, I wish you a very Merry Christmas and I hope you get to enjoy the festivities. Unfortunately, we got the sad news down here in the south of the UK that we are now in Tier 4 lockdown. So whereas before we were supposed to have been able to have 3 families come together and celebrate Christmas for a number of days, we're now not allowed to do that. So I've got a ton of meat that's been ordered at the butcher's and 4 sacks of potatoes to find use of. Not quite sure how I'm going to do that. I might be searching some recipes to see how I can salvage some of the food. But it is what it is, and it's all about staying safe, and keeping my loved ones safe and keeping the rest of the world safe. So, you know, we will be following the rules. It will be a different Christmas this year, but I am sure that somewhere in the future it will give us the opportunity to have a belated Christmas and belated festivities. So we will do that later in the year. That leaves me with nothing more other than to say Merry Christmas. And I wish everyone a very, very happy new year for 2021. And fingers crossed, it is a better year than 2020. So until next time, people, bye-bye for now.